Ooh, friends! Welcome to the red blush video solely inspired by the recently released shade from the YSL Make Me Blush line 15 Chili Crush. If you want to see this in action, I have a video where I filmed at Maddie's house. I was babysitting a little Westie over the weekend, and when preparing to film, I realized that I did not bring my brushes with me. It was so funny, well, not funny at the time, but I managed to still film how I apply makeup with fingers and also showed how I applied Chili Crush with my little Suqqu blush brush that I had with me because I brought this compact with me. So I used this little brush and demonstrated how you could actually get some nice blush using the little compact one. But YSL's Chili Crush packs a punch, and this isn't a video solely just reviewing this blush, although we will go over the details. It retails for, hold on, let me grab the price. It retails for $46. Not only did Chili Crush release recently, but a hot mauve shade, which is like a softer, like it kind of, I put it in the rose haze category in the Make Me Blush lineup. 24 months suggested shelf life. Thank you, YSL. And this is made in Italy. 6 grams of product with a net weight of 0.21 ounces, and it is a matte finish. The YSL Make Me Blush line has two, the satin and the matte, and this is what it looks like. It's almost like a magenta leaning color. Many people thought about NARS's Exhibit A, which interestingly enough debuted back in the 90s and pretty much set the standard for modern red blush, right? And if you have Exhibit A, I wish I did. I had it at one point, but I probably decluttered it. I think it's more of like an orange red leaning, whereas this is more of like a magenta red leaning. It's probably hard to see that by itself, but when swatched with other examples I have on standby, you can probably detect that nuance. Well, why red blush in the first place? Well, red is a primal color. It demonstrates excitement, warmth, exertion better than any other shade because we all have like that red flush of color that occurs, and many makeup historians, including Lisa Eldridge herself, can trace the first red blush back to the use of crushed cinnabar or carmine pigment in ancient civilizations where rouge was applied to the cheeks as a sign of beauty and vitality. And the red color is just that. And as you know, when NARS hit the scene with Exhibit A, many other brands followed suit with their own interpretation of a red blush. And now we have different deliveries of red blush in powder, in liquid, in cream, and in different shades and undertones. And depending on the formula itself, you can discover how versatile red is. Depending on the texture, you can share it out or you could apply it to appear more bold, which is what I did in my recent short, demonstrating how intense a red blush can appear, but how lovely it can look, more of like a softer hue. And just to quickly show what that it's like before we get into more comparisons, I have my Chikuhodo and Bobo Nebula CH02 blush brush on standby. This is black and silver fox hair, silky on the application. And right now I actually have Dior's Forever Blush Soft Filter in 08 Oud, which I consider to be a red blush. Is a little earthier, right? It has a little more toastiness to the color, but I think it'll be interesting to see. And if you have this blush, I would highly recommend that you kick off the excess on back of hand, and then I'm just tapping because look how quickly that changed. It changes everything, the look of my complexion, and we'll take it around for a ride. I like to wear red blush high on the cheekbones, as you see here. I think you can better detect that more magenta leaning hue, especially when I wear it over oud. And I don't think I'm gonna actually dip in for the other side. Look how much Chili Crush goes a long way, and it's gonna pack quite a punch. I mean, you don't even need that much of a tap that I showed. Look how much blush I have on my face. So what we're gonna follow up with is a quick buff. I'm taking my Yoshiki Koyudo Kakishibu 5-sided face brush and just kind of buffing away the excess, so we're left behind with the softer delivery of color. Many others have also applied Chili Crush through the eyes, which you can do as well. I'm taking quite a fluffy brush actually, and just just trailing the edges of what I already have on the eyes, if you're wondering. It's the Chanel, the L'Ombre Bouton in 219, specifically, oh god, Le Bouton Couture, but oh, I applied way too much. I'm gonna whip some away, but also pull it towards the temples, so it looks like the red is kind of washing in towards the eyes. So there you have Chili Crush. Thank you for coming. But now let's look at other red tone favorites. Oh, I wish I had Exhibit A to compare, but I also wanted to mention other blushes that people have brought up, specifically Patrick Ta's Major Headlines blush in the cream to powder duo is a fiery cherry red, as well as the Dior Rosy Glow Cherry. The recently formulated cherry, or the blush shade formula in general, in that bright cherry red, in my opinion, from what I swatched, it has like a what I call like a road skid mark trait about it. It doesn't have the same smoothness I found in the YSL, so it could be a little trickier to apply, but it might actually have a similar hue. I have to swatch them in person, but that bright cherry red could lean more magenta as well, but I'm not entirely sure. I also have the Valentino Eye to Cheek, but in 04 Sweet Rebel. There is 05 Rosso Valentino, which is more of the designated red shade in the lineup. It's described to be a red coral rose, but I could quickly swatch Sweet Rebel. This will look nice on the center of face, maybe to add a little bit of a blush light effect on the skin. I also have Gucci's Soft Red on standby, their Cheeks and Eyes powder. Soft Red, I predicted, was going to be a softer coral red. It doesn't have the same punch as Chili Crush, but because of that, I think more wearable, in my opinion, and easy to plop on the face without the worry or the concern having to figure out what brush to use, what pressure, product pickup. There's just less bandwidth you need in applying a soft red, and I think the shade is quite unique because of that coral influence. It has such a sun-kissed effect on the skin without appearing too heavy or too red overall on the complexion. Next we have Pat McGrath's Divine Blush in Electric Bloom. Now this formula is a demi matte. It's not completely matte like the YSL, so there's a little bit of a sheen, not in the literal sense, but it has more of like a skin-like effect. And you can see that there's more of a pink, warm pink influence to the color compared to Chili Crush, and immediately detecting just how softer the powder is, and I think, in my opinion, easier to apply because of that softer consistency. Like Soft Red, as I had described with the application, it's not as bandwidth heavy. You could get away with multiple brushes, various pressures, right? That you don't have to worry about Electric Bloom being too crazy. But interesting, at one point it was interpreted as such. When someone saw this color for the first time, you're like, whoa. But then you see Chili Crush and you're like, double whoa. Let's move on to Situationship from Urban Decay. Now, I actually swatched this in my finger makeup video. Situationship is considered to be a brick red, so this has more of an earthy tone to it. What I actually liken to Dior's Forever Blush Soft Filter in Oud, but that has a little bit of a more vibrancy that's in the YSL. And I also have Suqqu's Akanezome 105 on standby. This is from their Holiday 2024 collection, and I adore not only the texture but the shade. It's easy to wear. It's a red, but a lot softer than what you see in Chili Crush. Is muted, and I think far more wearable across many skin tones because you could just adjust the intensity of it, but you don't have to worry about the color richness off the bat. Same sentiments I shared about Gucci's Soft Red. But if you want to get crazy, I have Viseart's blusher palette in 02 Rose Coral. Now, what's interesting about Viseart is their color science. You don't have to just stick to one shade, but the powders are formulated for you to mix and match in order to influence the outcome that you want on the cheek. So this is quite literal red. I think more literal than Chili Crush, but if you were to mix the coral and red together, you'll get an entirely new shade where it might have a little bit of that tang and coral hue to it. So if you already have this palette, you got the red blush for sure. I also have this red blush from Chanel's palette. This released a few years back, the eyeshadow and blush palette in 958. It houses this red shade, which looks quite warm at first glance, and it's baked. So it's not going to have the same impact as a pressed powder does, but you can see that this actually reminds me of NARS' Sinful, in my opinion. It's red, but it's a warm red. Whereas there's a little bit of that chili crush is just crazy. I can't get over it, my goodness. Now, I don't have it with me, but I also thought about Charlotte Tilbury's Unreal Blush Stick in Cherry Glow. I actually had my eye on that color, but I decided to get Pretty Glow instead because I thought it was a nice departure from what I usually wear. That's the lilac shade, but Cherry Glow looks like it could be a warm red as well based off the photos, and it has a pearl finish to the formula. So not only will it provide that red tone flush of color, but it'll also provide that luminous finish, which I think when it comes to red, having that effect as well is like bonus. Red O from Holiday 2024 Hourglass. This is not the same as Midnight. No, At Night. Sorry, At Night. At Night is a lot more muted, and you can see that this is probably a truer magenta red than what's seen in Chili Crush. Isn't that interesting? That Chili Crush on its own and on the face kind of gave you like magenta red vibes, but compared to a red that has far more pink influence in the color, isn't that interesting? And now we got to go into the creams and liquids. Of course, I had to bring Soshe in the mix. I wouldn't consider this a deliberate red. This is more of a terracotta. It's a lot earthier than what you find in Chili Crush for sure. But I also have Flame, the Dior Glow Maximizer. This is not a blush per se, it's a blush highlight, but I think it would pair beautifully with any of these. But you see that there's more of like a copper influence. There is the copper shade from the Glow Maximizer lineup. It has a lot more earthiness to the undertone compared to Chili Crush. And my apologies, I'm gonna have to start a new set of swatches on arm number 2. So we'll kick it off with Chili Crush again at the top. And now I want to swatch NARS' Sinful. Sinful, I wish, was hardier. It's definitely more of a literal red, although the product page describes it to be a brick red. But you can see that how more muted it appears next to Chili Crush. Now, this isn't the designated red from Victoria Beckham Beauty's Color Wash product. This is Coral. She also has Flush, which I think is supposed to be the cherry liquid blush, but I still wanted to swatch Coral next to Chili Crush because I think they can be quite complementary in terms of the color, because Coral, I think, has a strong red influence, although again not the official red shade, where Flush is a truer cherry red in that lineup. But my goodness, this with Chili, that will be a lot. Coral on its own is already a lot. And now I have the Milk Makeup Cooling Water Jelly Tint in Burst, but I think Spritz is the shade that has a more distinct red tone to it. But this is, it gives you Flush, but you can see this has more of like a pink tone than Chili Crush does. And why not? Let's do it. I gotta go in with Oud, as I wouldn't officially categorize this as a red blush. I think it has red in there. Is definitely toastier than what Chili Crush delivers, right? This is what I compared to the Soshe, and I actually made that comparison in the Dior video. If I think I would have uploaded it by now, but I'm not entirely sure. My apologies in advance. Soshe has a little more of like a red vibrancy to it. It's toasty as well, but Oud is just, it's like a true red brown for sure. And you saw that I had it on the cheeks prior to applying Chili Crush. But all in all, I totally understand the appeal for red tone blushes, because again, it does have that natural flush of color that we all produce with our different complexion types, and that is what looks the most natural in terms of creating an artificial blush look. When you include red, you can't help but have just like that exuberant look to the complexion, that vitality, right? That before was described earlier in the video. The thing is that Chili Crush, in terms of the formula specifically, does not play around. So when I demonstrated how this blush applies in my short, people were surprised. They were like, whoa, that's actually more impactful than I thought. I don't know if I want it anymore, because when you have to think about what type of brush to use, how to apply it, I think with practice, you can develop a level of comfort in applying Chili Crush where it doesn't require as much thinking initially. You might have to experiment with the application, the pressure, the amount. You saw, I didn't even have to dip in twice. Look at this, to get both cheeks, right? There's a lot of color going on here, but if you wanted even more, just to show you again, it's a light tap, and look how much product gets picked up by the brush. And I'm just lightly tapping here to create like that halo effect around the eyes and down on the cheeks, and just building it here. And all the blushes you saw that I swatched can be combined, and I think will create just a beautiful gradient. And that's what it's about, creating dimension on the face, not just with one color but with several, and playing with the intensity of color, perhaps applying something toastier or higher on the cheekbones and through the hollows, and then inviting a lighter, maybe red magenta shade or coral red shade on the center of the face to create like that sun-kissed look across the nose. There's so many ways you can go, but the Chili Crush shade, I mean, my goodness, I was not ready for the level of performance this blush provides. And just again, using a small compact brush, but being able to maneuver it in a way that works for me, my complexion, and how I want my makeup to appear was a plus. Now, this isn't to say you have to buy this specific color. You saw how many, and although I don't own all red blushes that are currently available in the market, how many options there are out there for you. And you just have to choose the color, the texture that works best for your complexion, for your skin type, for your preference. And there are several out there, but you can't go wrong with red blush. I mean, again, it's the look. The look is there, and we love it. So let me know if you recently picked up Chili Crush, what you think about it, and please share your other red blush favorites that I didn't mention or failed to show because I didn't own it. We'll love to know down below. And if you made it this far, please like this video by clicking the thumbs up. It helps me tremendously in letting YouTube know that I'm worth watching, and will also recommend my videos to other beauty enthusiasts such as yourself. And consider subscribing. Who knows, well, I'll drop more blush videos, and you'll know when those uploads drop, especially when you click that notification bell. And if you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much for watching me again. And if it's your first time here, please stay, peruse some more. Maybe I'll see you in this video here, definitely in the comments for this one, and on here again next time.